All right, it's noon. You ready, Katie? Okay. All right, so it's noon, so I'll go ahead and call this October 14th meeting to order and open it up for citizen comment. All right, anything get called in?
Nope, nothing.
All right. There being no citizen comments, we'll move on to our active agenda. First item is approval of minutes of September 9th, 2025.
Since I wasn't here, I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay. We have a
I'll
second.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? I have one item to change, which I want to talk to Katie about. It's on page 4 of the minutes at the very top. There's just a period in one of the numbers.
And I made that
So
change.
she's made that change. So with that change,
Copy for you.
I'll go ahead and call for the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Good editing.
Thank you. Next item is approval of invoices. I'll group all three together. First one's O'Sullivan Legal for September in the amount of $708. Second one is Redevelopment Association of Idaho annual membership dues and legislative contribution of $2,600. And finally, City of Lewiston reimbursement for East Orchard Sewer Phase 3 construction of totaling $523,411.66. I'd entertain a motion.
So. Motion.
Okay. We want to open it up.
Second.
Okay, second, and we'll open it for discussion. Anybody have any discussion?
I do, I need item 3 separately, so I can, as I stated in the last meeting, anything to do with that East Orchard sewer, I'm voting nay against.
So you want me to pull it out and have?
I would prefer you did, yeah, otherwise I just have vote nay
Okay,
as motion.
all right. So we'll separate that one out. So for this motion, it'll be items 1 and 2, the legal and the redevelopment association. So we have a motion
So moved.
and a second. Okay, open it up for discussion. Anything about those particular 2 items? No? Okay, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, last item, approval of invoices, City of Lewiston reimbursement request for East Orchard Sewer Phase 3 for $523,411.66. I entertain a motion.
We'll make a motion to approve the reimbursement request to the listing.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, and we'll open up for discussion.
I don't have anything else to add.
You know what?
As I stated before.
Okay. So I'll call for the motion then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Note that Doug did not approve of that. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, review of financial summary. We've got 2 for information purposes only, August 2025 and September 2025.
Okay, so we have August and September in the packet. It's not any kind of major changes. August is, your full fiscal year. With all items included. Yeah, so unless there's any questions.
I have questions. Anybody have any questions on the financials, either one?
Like I mentioned before, after we start paying Albright's bills, then you'll start seeing movement in the East Orchard sewer category, because those monies that we've contracted will start going out.
Okay. All right, that information. Next item is Brighton Avenue relocation area.
So you guys asked that this just remain on the agenda so that as there were updates from the city regarding, projects and road design and that kind of stuff, that it's just there. I do not believe Luke has anything for us this particular time.
Just a quick update, we've working on a contract with our design consultant to move forward an analysis of a certain section along that roadway, just to see if it will work out. to see if we can narrow that up. If it doesn't, then we'll continue on with the current course of the project. So, but that's gonna be paid for with current funding, and so no requests today. But, in order to wrap up the project, I probably will be coming back with some requests as far as partnering with us to get, the rest of the design fees paid for and wrap that project up.
Thank you. All right, any other questions, or you want to add anything? No, okay,
Nope, I think until we have additional information from the consultant, that's
all we have.
kind of all we have on that.
All right, so next item is review of East Orchard Sewer Revenue Allocation Area, 2 sections, plan review and bond payment summary, and the second is project review and nitrate priority.
Okay, so I split this up into two kind of sections because the original request had been to review the plan and the bond. And then board member Havens requested additional information regarding the nitrates and that kind of half of it. So in the packet, and I have a packet up on the screen, we'll just go through it kind of together. I included a memo just kind of providing the background history. I hope you'll take the time to read it. So in 2017, we adopted ordinance 4697, which created the urban renewal plan for revenue allocation area number 5, which is our East Orchard sewer. This plan establishes a base role assessment as of January 1st of 2017, and its term ends in 2037. Revenues generated through the term of RAA number 5 will be pledged to fund 9,500 feet of sewer trunk line extension, 29,000 feet of secondary lines, and 1 or more small lift stations in the East Orchards. And that statement comes directly from the plan. The purposes of the law, which will be obtained through, and the major goals of this plan are elimination of up to 450 individual domestic septic systems, reduction of a major source of nitrates in the Lindsay and Tammany Creek watersheds, strengthening the tax base by encouraging and facilitating private investment in additional homes in the project area that would not be possible on septic systems, avoiding an erosion of property values in the event of septic system failure, and leverage funds of other local, state, and federal agencies. The proposed sewer main project has 4 primary goals. 1, to provide a primary sewer trunk main in East Orchards located along a road that allows for maximum sewer service expansion in the future, and providing existing homeowners with septic systems the option of a public wastewater system. The ultimate goal is abandonment of most of the septic systems. 2, to provide a primary sewer trunk main in the East Orchards located along a route that allows for maximum sewer service expansion in the future to currently undeveloped property both inside and adjacent to city limits. 3, to provide public sewer to the East Orchards so that development density can be increased beyond the current 1 house per acre on septic systems. Increasing density reduces the price each customer pays for many public services and utilities. And number 4, to help reduce the nitrate/nutrient and fecal coliform E. coli levels in both Lindsay Creek and Tammany Creek by reducing the existing and future use of private septic systems. So those are just some excerpts from the plan itself. I did include the entire plan in the packet. It is 157 pages. So I don't expect that we will go through it one by one, but I did want all of that information to be available to you guys. It is also available on the city website if you have not previously had a chance to review it. This is sideways, so I apologize for that. But I had included this previously in our annual report. So this is our bond payments to date. So we made interest only payments in the beginning, just because that's how the bond was organized basically. And we did not have increment to make anything above and beyond that. So the bond was secured by monies from the city of Lewiston. That information is also in the packet itself inside the plan. And then, so we had 2 years where we made interest only payments. So that was in 19 and in 20. So 42,000 and change made in 19, 57,000 and change made in 20. In 21, we started making principal and interest payments. In 22, we made an additional $300,000 principal payment. In 23, we made an additional $200,000 principal payment. And then the last 2 years, 24 and 25, we've made our standard principal and interest payment that equals about $149,000. So the original term of the bond was to expire in 2037, with 2037 being the payoff date. On my estimation, I have asked for a new amortization schedule from Banner Bank. I have not received it so far. Once I have, I will forward that to the board. But with my estimation, it looks like we are on track to pay off if we just continued, not making any additional payments and just made our standard payment each year, we would pay off in 2032. So that's the bond kind of information. And then, does anyone have any questions on that? No, okay. So then, just the whole plan is here, so I'm gonna scroll through this really quickly, and if we need to go back to it, we can. If there are questions towards the end. So then also in your packet is a memo from Joe Kaufman. That's it. Kind of giving an overview from kind of like the wastewater perspective of the project and what has occurred thus far. I'm gonna hand it over to Mr. Kaufman. He can kind of just talk through his memo, and then he provided some maps also. I'm gonna look at those.
Yeah, thank you. The memo mostly just sort of lists the same project goals that we went over earlier, those 4 goals. It rehashed a little bit about the end of last year, we had gone back and looked at how many service connections were on that project so far, and it was 78. Provided that then, which just as one way to think about that number, when people talk about it, it cost $20,000 to install a new or rebuild the failed septic system. Like 78 connections is like $1.5 million with private like investment in septic systems. That sort of represents not happening. But just stepping through there, goal number 1 with the trunk line, that really was largely accomplished with the phase 1 of the project. Where we put that through the center of the, basically from edge to edge in the revenue allocation area, and provided where we could connect into it and expand it further and development. And your guys' projects have expanded it since that. It was, it's up there.
I have a question.
Yes.
Number 2 in the memo, it said that, this route was so, the most homes could be hooked up. Right? Wasn't that what you said? Number 2.
The goal number 2, provide the primary sewer trunk main along a route that allows for maximum sewer service expansion in the future. Currently, undeveloped property on both inside and adjacent to city limits. Is that one?
Okay, yeah. So you think that was the maximum, or that line provided for the maximum hookups? Going this route? If you had your druthers, say the money was unlimited, would you have gone a different route?
No, I don't think so.
Really?
I mean, a lot of it is also what's possible with the grades that you have, and so,
Right.
trying to put it through the middle of the project and knowing that where future development was expected to happen. When it talks about the undeveloped and underdeveloped areas, like this route really was like, really stood out as being the best one and the ones that looked feasible.
Okay.
And there was a study done to establish that.
Yeah.
Mountain Waterworks, as a third-party consultant, looked at that and established like that was all vetted to the URA board with the consultant to end up on that route. That's not just Joe saying that.
Yeah.
So the natural topography of the area to get the most homes hooked up on a sewer system was this route.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Based on the study.
Yeah, based on the study. That we looked at some alternatives, but we didn't. We just did this one.
Like what?
The one that I can remember, if we looked at, if we could partner with the property line there where Lindsay Creek Estates is going in, instead of putting it in 20th Street and going up.
Oh, you're still talking about
So that
going
one,
that route. I'm talking, okay. That's fine. Let's not get off. Go ahead. You can continue. Go ahead.
okay. Yeah. I guess the last thing about talking about goal number one, metric that we've been tracking about this is the average distance from like all the parcels inside the revenue allocation area to that city sewer service. At the beginning, prior to phase one, it was about 4,500 feet, the average distance to city sewer from the parcels inside that area. We're to the point now where it's 485 feet when we're done with what's under contract. So it's a pretty big. It can be a pretty big, it's one way to think about it that isn't just, is it in front of my house or not? It's getting closer and easier to serve the whole. That second goal about the primary trunk line. We talked about this. Maximum expansion there. The two large subdivisions inside the RA are the Lindsay Creek Estates and Gardner subdivision. Then you have Skyview Estates, which is like on the map there, got quite a bit of connections and expansions to the system that's outside of the revenue allocation area. And those have all been made feasible because they developed a sewer for them to tie into. The third goal, prior to the establishment of the project, the density was roughly that 1 home per acre. Like there's some lots that were significantly smaller that were existing, and there was some undeveloped area that was larger than that, but that was the average density across there. In past meetings, and when that was coming together, they talked a lot about the city had gone back and did a GIS study about what the density was in LOSD when they had problems enough that people voted to establish a sewer district. And it's kind of that 1 home per acre. Same thing in the 70s for COSD. And so we also have those times they were seeing septic return flows on the surface. Like there's some old historic photos about that. We were appeared to be kind of on the verge of that in East Orchard as well. Is that we had that map with, we called the springs that we had mapped prior to that. So going out in the wet time of year to look at places that we were seeing springs kind of on the down gradient side of the neighborhood.
Can you explain what you mean by a spring?
Well, it's where the groundwater is collecting back on top of the surface in the low-lying areas, so find its way back to the surface. You might not be able to say that is because of septics or not in any particular place, but this is a concerning number of springs that would show up.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to figure out, are you tying us into septics, the springs? Cause I live right there. So are you saying that septics are saturating the ground so the springs come to the surface?
I think that I would say that they're contributing to it, and putting more water into that shallow groundwater system. Wouldn't be there otherwise if it was put into a sewer system.
Okay,
Doug, are you on septic or sewer?
I'm on septic,
Septic.
have been since 95.
But, and then of the 72 lots created by subdivisions that we looked at here, put in my memo, they've been between 1/2 to some under 1/10 of an acre. They averaged about 1/3 of an acre. And quite a few of them were telling us they're intending to build duplexes, so even though the lots may be that big, the effective density could be higher as they build them up. Which meets that goal. I looked at trying to match or look at the assessed values inside the RAA from before till after the project, and provided those numbers, and then found out from about 89 million to 179 million. So it's a pretty big increase.
And
Numbers sound about right.
you're attributing that to what?
Well, I think there's two things largely. One is any of the new homes built inside there, you know, that contributes to that. There's also the housing market, which we've all seen.
No,
A lot of,
so you're
things.
just saying additional residential, that's all you're saying.
the value, the assessed value inside that RAA has gone up a lot.
Because there's more houses.
Yeah, I didn't dive into it deep enough, but that would,
Okay.
but I
Just in the past, the URA has taken credit for the natural increase of values. So I'm trying to figure out if that's what you're talking about.
That's embedded in that too. Like, we didn't.
Doing what? Doing, URA doing what?
Any natural increase in values would be included in that number.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't compare, so this comes from that September values worksheet that the county puts out.
Right,
So we didn't compare like a non-RAA area to see
yeah,
if they had an equal value
okay.
over the same period of time that RAA exists.
I think the assertion is clearly that with increased densification, value of the properties in the area goes up.
Mhm.
And of course, market values, we all are aware of what market values in Lewiston have done because we live here and are
Okay,
paying property taxes on it. So
that's what I'm trying
Yeah.
to, that's what I talked about, the more homes,
Yes.
yeah.
So, and it does not include all the homes made possible in that Skyview Estates piece, because that's outside the recommendation.
Yeah,
Even though they couldn't have built, certainly not the same density that they did without the project. I'm going to slice it.
those are the questions.
Let's go, sorry.
A simple question, Joe, is the number 78 of homes that are connected now to the sewer that before were either not built or were on septic?
Yes, so that's combining new homes and ones that have converted.
Right.
As of the end of last year, when we looked at updating this. We've been trying to look at it every winter. It's a little harder to do in the middle of the construction season. Like when you say something is all the way, they all kind of get done as a class, there's not a lot of discussion going, so it's a yearly time period we're trying to look at. So that number comes from the end of last. Yeah, 10 months ago.
Do you know of that 78, how many are homes that were built prior and moved from septic to sewer?
more than half.
Yeah,
Hold on. So on the original trunk line, there was 101. So 46 from the original 101 have fully switched over, and then an additional 19 did the stub, but haven't abandoned their septic yet from the original trunk line. And then in addition to that would be houses like down here, this is where Lindsay Creek Estates is, some new ones that they've put in. This is that Heimgartner subdivision. I think they've only done 4 so far. They'll have 22 units when they're built out. And that was originally one house on like a 4.5 acre lot. And then there's a scattering of some smaller subdivisions in here where people have just flagged a larger lot into 1 or 2 additional lots and then added another home. And then ditto up here, kind of at the top of where the sewer went in. There's a couple of subdivisions going in up there that have tied off of, that was just undeveloped land that is tied off of the sewer line where it started at the very top. And then there's all the ones over here in Skyview Estates, which like Joe mentioned is not within that RA, but did pick up where that sewer line stopped and kept it going. So that subdivision did this line into this future phase that they're working on the roads right now, this line into this phase that has I think 32 homes, and that's almost all built out. About 2/3 were pre-existing of the 78, and then that number, of course, is higher since we haven't gone back and counted this last year's total numbers.
And those 78 are all within the,
Revenue allocation,
Okay.
right? Yeah,
doesn't include any of the additional.
It includes the ones in the,
it includes ones within the RAA that have been built since the inception of the RAA.
is there any other questions or? So then, I guess lastly, that last goal about reducing nitrates, nutrients and bacteria loading to the shallow groundwater. That is, something that gets talked about a lot. I know that we take those, what was the number again? Oh, 2/3, it was the 2/3 of 78. Of how many converted? All the wastewater that used to be going to those septic systems is now going to the wastewater treatment plant. So there's no nitrates or bacteria coming from those septic systems, whatever the load used to be. That's probably the most concrete thing that you can say.
Although if a septic system is abandoned, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's excavated. So it may still pose a bit of a loading issue, right?
Sort of, so when this part of converting, this is a good opportunity to talk about what conversion looks like. So their drain field can, like the material that they built their drain field will usually stay in place. Unless they're going out and building something else there, but they have to pump out there. So they make the connection to the new sewer line. Once the septic tank is no longer having water directed into it, they have to go pump it empty one last time, kind of like a normal septic service would be.
Okay. So
And then they
that
have to
does-
fill it, crush it, or remove the tank. And so the only thing you'd have left there would be anything remaining in the drain field after that's been decommissioned.
in the soils.
Yeah. And so,
So that should tail off over time.
yeah, you're not putting any more water out from there. Does that answer your question, kind of what that looks like?
Yep.
And, I know that DEQ has been looking at that area and nitrates quite a bit. I mean, there's been a lot of people discussing it last few years. They had done a study, and I didn't have a copy of this one here, but where they looked at the presence and absence of septic effluent in Lindsay Creek. And they had found artificial sweeteners, which was their tracer for septic effluent. Basically, it's only people that take in artificial sweeteners and they persist because we can't break them down. Neither does the biology in a septic system, so they stay with the water. But they also found caffeine, which is an indicator that the septic systems aren't working as at least some of them are not working as they should, because a properly functioning septic system should break down the caffeine that people are emitting into that shallow wastewater. But they found both in their sample. They're not a way to attribute portions at all, just a presence absence sort of study that they got about that. The ones that we've redirected aren't emitting any more into that shallow groundwater system. Because of that's going to the wastewater treatment plant where we have the complex systems to remove a lot more of that before it goes back into the river. Basically at the railroad bridge. And then we had requested some nitrate information from DEQ after the last meeting. Just they're the ones that are measuring that and keeping track of it. So we just asked them for what their latest and greatest was, and that was these two documents that we included in the packet. I don't know if you all looked at them very much. As I went through this first one, was about, stated in 2024. Just about nitrate priority areas. Their time trend analysis for that. And for Lindsay Creek, on page 2, kind of towards the bottom, we called out that the mean nitrate concentrations ranged from 0.171 milligrams to 16.59 milligrams. Shallow sediments at one location had the mean nitrate concentrations of 5.84. And Kettle Mountains formation, the top layer of rock was from 0.5 to that 16.59. The next deeper went up them. I don't know if I need to read all of those to you, but 0.171 to 15. And Grand Ronde at the bottom was 0.397 to 14.5. And they presented them in a table that the easiest thing I thought to look at there is on page 12 of that report, which is a map. Yes, except for, that's for the other area that.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, the little toolbar perfectly covers the page numbers for you.
Right.
So this one, it might be hard to see up there on the screen, but they had different, they had arrows going up for increasing, down for decreasing, bars for really no trend. And at the bottom, they list basically that they notice that there's insufficient evidence to conclude the data are trending whether up or down. And that, I think, was for me, the bottom line when I read through this. Like Doug, you kind of mentioned, there's a lot of more in-depth stuff that deeper into it person got, but that would be my summary of that one. The other,
When was the date of the last set of samples that were taken? Was that fairly recently?
yeah, the study is January, or not January, July of 2024. Let me put this out. And
It looks like sample date started 8:05.
for time.
Fine.
So that's looking at their data range. Most recent ones I see in their data range there with
22, here,
23.
23, 24. 3. And then the other document that DEQ provided us with was this groundwater surface water nitrate pattern in the Listed Basin that they put out in 2019. Up to this covered year 76 to 18.
You have a more current one than that?
This is the most current thing that DEQ sent me. City of Lewiston does not. do
Because
any
I
of
think
this
of
stuff.
that document says, that's 2019 document, it says that, a new document will be coming out in 5 years.
You would have to check with DEQ. This is the most recent thing that they provided me with.
So they probably haven't done
We asked for the latest and greatest. This is what we were given. I mean, and it could be that this memo document is supposed to be that updated. Since this was from last year.
So I guess that's. If there's any other questions I can help with. I can sit down and if you have questions later, I'll do my best to address them.
it. Can the entire city, limits in the orchard, the east orchards, tie into the sewer?
I would think so. I mean, some of them are further away, like the distance, you have to build more sewer line to reach the entire area.
No, I'm just saying, is it possible? You'd have to build more sewer line, but because of the elevation or,
Weren't there some areas that were identified as
Yeah.
required pumps?
Yeah, there's some areas that are on the fringes, the very north and the very south of the RAA, basically, that would not be serviceable by gravity. So they'd either have to have
Lift station.
a lift station put in, or maybe some form of a.
Yeah,
low
so there's
pressure
some,
sewer.
there's like a northern pressure service area and a southern pressure service area that were identified in the original kind of study of the whole area, and I think they identified lift stations. Would
but
be-
their lift stations are part of the plan.
They were originally, yes.
Oh, they're not anymore?
Well, if we got that far, then sure. I mean, they were called out in the beginning that you might need to do one or more small lift stations. I mean, they identified them on the map.
Okay.
It is more cost effective to get the whole gravity system network built out before you start putting in the lift stations, because you have to build the gravity network and the lift station to serve those areas. And there might be some other alternatives too, like I was saying, one or more of those neighborhoods where they have a low pressure sewer system or something where each home has a small, like, there's just different things we can look at.
That was
Closer to the sign.
his item number, I think it was item number 3, was that the more homes you put on the sewer, it reduces the cost for everybody else.
That's the general idea for
Yeah.
utilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
The more people that utilize the utility, the costs get spread for the entire utility.
so that would make sense to put these lift stations in then to get those homes on too.
I think so. I mean.
Okay.
As
You know,
as
it's
you
not,
get closer,
that's good answer.
no, I mean, as you get closer to building something, have a real, concrete cost estimate, and it's kind of when you have to make those value judgments.
Okay.
But, no, it's like the opposite of the problem I experienced. I had a timeshare in McCall just recently, but
Yeah, I have
through
one too.
COVID, they, a bunch of people dropped out or didn't pay their dues, and it went into the death spiral of a few people who were still there.
Did you get out of yours?
Yeah,
I
it collapsed. Because there weren't enough ratepayers to make the whole system work unless,
$10,000 a year maintenance fee.
Not in Aspen Village.
yeah. So anyway, when we're talking about that cost and having a big pool for utilities, it's like, that's my experience at the opposite death spiral of having too few
Right.
payers.
And enough people for the pool.
My math is correct, and we've had 78 hookups to the sewer. It would appear to me that we have approximately 51 existing residents that have hooked up to the sewer and 27 new homes. Something like
That seems-
That sounds
that's
about
about
right.
That sounds right.
It would be more now, that's a month-old number, but.
Yeah.
More new homes, I don't think there'd be much change in the existing homes. Last year.
I think there was a couple that were 24 hookups. When I looked at it prior to doing the letters for this third phase to figure out who else I needed to mail to, there were a couple 23 and 24 hookups. I don't know that there were any from this year, but people are continuously, because there's those people who stubbed in, but didn't do the conversion, who have since that 2017-2018 original trunk line have switched over kind of slowly. So usually we get a trickle of folks that were part of that original trunk line, or adjacent to that original trunk line, we get a handful each year that hook up.
A lot of times when somebody new buys a home,
Yeah.
they have to do the septic sort of work to transfer the house, I think.
Yeah,
They
sometimes they're like,
realize
it makes
shape
sense
it's
to.
in. Or the seller converts it in order to get the sale done.
Or sometimes you see, like I said, there have been some smaller, subdivisions where they've only split a lot into like an additional lot or additional 2 lots. Those, you frequently will see them convert their original home to or from septic to the sewer line, and then we'll put in laterals to do additional, so they can do additional lots and homes.
Anybody else have any questions?
Do we have a sense of the frequency with which DEQ does their testing? Is it annually, maybe, or?
I think it's pretty frequent, but I don't.
We don't, nobody here from EQ. Okay,
I know that they talk often about how this is conveniently close to their office here in Lewiston compared to some of the watersheds that they look at. So I think it gets looked at more often than some other ones further out in the state. And I do know that that update about the metro priority areas, that they're overdue to do that, and they're always talking about being on the verge of getting going.
okay, just so I understood what you said about the nitrate thing. And the most recent report, you said their findings are inconclusive?
This one looks like it, yeah,
Okay.
that's how I read their blog.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I got that right.
It wasn't really a
To indicate,
trend up or down.
yeah.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, I've heard them talking about we need to get this update done, but they didn't have one provide to us.
Yeah, this note just says insufficient evidence to conclude that data is trending one way or the other, so.
Okay.
Would it be more accurate, Doug, to say that inconclusive, perhaps it's based on assumptions?
Could be, I mean, the assumption is like, I was saying, if you're not putting nitrates in the ground, must have something, but it might have some effect on the readings if they're not going in. But does it make a difference in the overall picture? I don't know, we don't know, because there's nitrates coming from farming and livestock and.
And septic systems that are outside the revenue allocation area.
Yeah, new construction.
Yep.
Well. Yeah, but this is, we're talking about Lindsay Creek, which is the natural drainage. So
So
I
there,
don't think it matters if they're in a revenue allocation area or not, it's still the nitrate reading.
correct, but there are homes outside of our revenue allocation area within the county that are still installing septics. That would be going into contributing. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna speak because I don't really know a lot about septics, but as a URA, isn't it our responsibility to manage the plan, not to argue with DEQ about numbers? Like,
Well, I'm not gonna argue. with the
yeah, I
numbers.
just feel like as a URA, we're supposed to just, and Thad can correct me if I'm wrong, we're supposed to manage the plan according to statute, not question.
Yeah,
We're
not in
like,
charge of
we're like
data
the
for
builders, we're the builders of the,
Yeah.
making sure everything's put into
Okay.
place.
Well, whenever
it's-
Joe's done that, I'm got a
Yeah.
little bit of presentation, then
I
there's
just-
somebody from Soil and Water
Okay.
here.
I
who
just
does
wanna
a lot
stay
of
on target
testing.
with what our responsibility as a URA board is to maintain, and Thad, correct me if I'm wrong, we're supposed to manage this plan. Not question. And we're not environmentalists, we're not, there's no way for us to know that information, correct?
Correct.
So our job as a URA is to manage the plan according to statute. But
Would it be incorrect to say that the plan is based on some goals?
it is based on goals
Okay.
and we're supposed to manage those.
What
goals.
is one of the goals?
So we just discussed them
What is one of the goals?
to make sure that
To
we're,
reduce nitrates?
yes, and any
Okay.
house that you put on the.
That's what we're
Yeah.
trying to do.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure
That's
that we're
what we're
staying
talking
on
about
course
here.
as a group, that we're not going off course and that we're just, doing it according to Idaho statute in.
If Joe's done, then I got a few comments and then I have a 1:30 meeting, so I'm watching. the
Thank you
clock.
for that. I'm not trying to, I appreciate what you're saying. And I know the discussion of nitrates. I just don't want us to lose our focus as a group. That we're supposed to be managing the existing plan. Obviously, our predecessors created the plan based on certain information that I'm,
Right.
obviously not privy to all of it, but I want us to stay on track, and Dad can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're supposed to.
Well, I think
manage.
you're privy to all of it. The
Yeah.
whole thing's
Yeah.
documented.
I'm talking about the person that he was discussing that did the surveys and all that at the original. I've not seen those personally, but. Anyway, I'll go ahead and let you.
Okay. Good, before I ask Lynn Rasmussen, and I have no idea what she's gonna talk
Yeah.
about, but soil and water is referenced in this plan. So, I mean, it makes sense that she would comment about what they were asked to do or what they found. So it's no secret that the county, going back, all the way back to 17, it's noted in several of the staff reports, Hesperus County not supportive of the urban renewal for this purpose. That's mentioned 2 or 3 times. And there was reasons for that because it was viewed as more of a city plan. It's to take care of city septic systems and those issues that might have happened with septic systems, groundwater problems, stuff like that. And I live in one of the areas, so I'm quite knowledgeable about what's going on out there. And I see Barney Metzels here, and Barney can probably testify to the fact that there's these springs. Yeah, we thought that too when we moved in, and then we heard later that there ended up being a broken pipe out there. And I think it was on a long cedar or something, and that was repaired, and a couple of the basements no longer even had to pump the basements anymore. So, I mean, all these things kind
Some broken freshwater.
of, I'm not sure if it's freshwater irrigation. I'm not sure. So, the reason I talk about the plan is in order to develop a plan and move it forward, and then eventually it'll get approved and all that. It has these target, and to be a qualified URA plan, it has these target goals. In order to be a URA plan, if it doesn't have these target goals, it's basically a city project that would be funded through city management of the enterprise fund. So, what is the need? The existing private septic systems within the city limits and the ACI are contributing to poor water quality in the surrounding watersheds of Lindsay Creek and Camden Creek. The lack of public sewer in this area is creating a serious environmental and public health concern. So we don't talk about that a lot, but it looks ominous in print. A serious environmental and public health concern. Okay, well, maybe Lynn will talk about that. Because I want to know what that is. I don't know what it is. And I'm not a chemist or a biologist or whatever. You mentioned the 2 things in number 2, and I thought it was number 3 about hooking up most of the homes. I'm not sure that's actually gonna happen. To reduce nitrate contamination, nitrates inputs to groundwater and surface water need to be reduced. To address nitrate pollution from agriculture, the Idaho Soil and Water Conservation Commission will need to work with the landowners on a voluntary basis and best management practices. Idaho code identifies as such and such and such. So that's what's in the report, and as part of BEQ is that nitrates come from 3 sources. The interesting thing is that if you try and ask somebody what is a predominant source, they won't give you an answer. Can't get an answer. Because nobody wants to be on record as saying it's farming. People don't want to go after the farmers. It's ranching. They don't want to mess with the ranchers, but they can mess with septic systems. So, in order to be a legitimate project for the URA, as stated in the plan, it's to reduce nitrates going into the Lindsay Creek or Camden Creek system. And it's an entire big old map up there. So now we need to know, are we doing what the plan says? Because if we're not doing it, it's not a URA plan. It's simply being moved along as a URA plan and having no effect on what is listed as a primary goal.
Would you think any of the houses being connected to the septic would be reducing the nitrates because they're, they're on the system now instead of?
I don't know,
So-
isn't that what testing is
I
for?
mean, I would think that just by having those nitrates,
No, that's where assumption, just
Yeah.
what Butch just said.
Yeah.
It's an assumption. It's an assumption being made that if the nitrates aren't going in the ground, they're somehow reducing it, but even DEQ doesn't know. They don't know.
well, and I feel like that's not, well, for me, I don't have, I'm not at work for DEQ, I don't have that knowledge, so I'm just trying to think out loud. I mean, I think it's important for us to have partnerships and explore those options, but our job as a URA, in my opinion, is to maintain the plan by Idaho code statutes. I mean, there's people obviously before us that went through all this and went into detail, but if you have more information, I mean, I'd love to hear it, but I feel
Well,
like,
I was hoping
Yeah.
DEQ would be here.
Okay.
Maybe somebody from the health district was here.
No.
No, so neither one of them, and that's who does the
Yeah.
testing for DEQ. So they didn't want to come, but Lynn Rasmussen.
but I recognize what you're saying, like I acknowledge everything what you're saying, I'm just, for me as a URA board member, I don't have that experience of environmental quality control, and so unless there's some facts or something that shows, I feel like we're supposed to manage the plan.
Are you,
statute,
okay,
but-
so just so I'm clear, you think it's probably okay to continue to take resources, money I'm talking about, from other taxing entities to continue to fund the plan that may not be meeting its goal?
Well, I think it's important to explore if it's meeting its goal with facts,
Okay, that's what we're trying to do.
but we don't have people here from those agencies. And
Well, we
as a
asked you-
URA, I feel like it's our
Okay,
responsibility.
we have somebody from Soil and Water, and they are in the plan. So I would ask you to recognize her.
Okay. Do you wanna, I mean, do we?
Yeah, just have,
Go ahead.
Hi.
if you wanna come up and introduce yourself and state where you're from, so I can have everything on the record.
Okay, then I don't know what the
Yeah.
protocol is.
I just need your name, city of residence.
Now the first one, water.
Oh, you're on the record.
I'm not sure, I summarized the data. Hi, how are you? Good. I summarized some data and put some information together about water quality data that's been collected over the years regarding septics and nitrates in Lindsay Creek. Kind of a literature review for you, if that helps. And then also, when you talk about sources, it is hard to nail down which one of the main contributing sources are seen as the primary one, and there's a lot of scientific reasons for that. It's really hard in the environment to collect enough data to say statistically, your lot contributed more nitrates than Doug's lot. And so you have to have a lot of data points in order to support that. So usually in groups like DQ or public health will go with trends or collect monitoring data that substantiates that. So a little bit, it's an onerous task to ask to be able to separate that out. But they made some good attempts, and there's some data here that if you want me to share that, I
Yeah.
do that. Some of it you've seen.
Do you have copies that I can?
I
have
do.
at the end? So I can-
Yes, what I did is I went through, I did a literature search of all the data sources. And so this is a summary of that. I only brought one copy, my apologies for that. But it lists and has links wherever there's reports that you can link to so you can look up the information yourself. So this is all the published information that came from several agencies. And those are the Conservation District, the State Department of Agriculture, the Idaho Association of Soil Conservation Districts, Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, University of Idaho, USGS, and Idaho Soil and Water Conservation Commission. So in the URA that you are looking at, the part that Commissioner Havens was mentioning where the Conservation District is mentioned, is our data came from, we were involved in what's called the TMDL process, which is required as part of the Clean Water Act. And so Lindsay Creek was established as not meeting the Clean Water Act standards, mostly for drinking water, and then also some recreational water uses. So basically that's how come the concern about nitrates and E. coli or bacteria come into play, is because that work was done from the 70s to about, what was it, 2002 or 2007 when they did the updated TMDL plan. So that's where the Conservation District gets heavily involved, is we want to work with the landowners there to reduce all of the pollutants identified in a watershed that's been identified by EPA and DEQ as water quality limitations. So this data set here, I'll pass this around so you can see that, but you can get, I can send that to you electronically as well. That's just a compilation of everything that's available. There's a couple unpublished reports that if you want those come from the conservation district, meaning they were historic and they have landowner names in them. I'd have to redact that before we can make it public. And I can do that. I just didn't do it before now and put it on our website. But all the other sources are available to you and to the public that way. I then summarized the top 6 studies that I thought had data in it that are relevant. That kind of feeds our decision-making tree about what kind of things we look at when we're talking about E. coli and nitrates in the watershed. And it starts back in 1977, which is mentioned in several reports. And that was a study done by Public Health. And it's marked as number 1 in this book. And it basically says there's contributions from septics along the lower 1 mile section of Lindsay Creek, parallel to Rockwood Creek. So back in the 70s, there was some recognized data from that. There are some data tables within that, so you can get actual data of measurements. But basically, it substantiates that there were some kind of concerns with septics at that time in the lower part of the watershed. And then in 2002, as part of developing the TMDL effort, and that stands for Total Maximum Daily Load, the Idaho Association of Soil Conservation Districts had a contract with the DEQ in Idaho to collect some data in the watershed that would be used as the basis for what the TMDL rates are. So they went through and once again identified bacteria, nitrates, sediment in the creek, and identified 5 different sites where they monitored within Lindsay Creek watershed. And all of those showed an elevated or high part of nitrate. So in the sources of that, they make some estimates that it comes partially from septic, partially from livestock, and partially from agricultural communities. But no, like everybody was saying, really no saying farming's contributing 22% and the septics are 16 and the livestock are, whatever percentage. So what they did instead is just say, this is the data. Then in 2007, the load reductions were done. And this is the important thing that comes to water quality contributions, which we're all trying to achieve. Basically what that says, and it comes by month, there's a table in here, page 36 of the TMDL report that's also part of that, that says, it shows a table showing human and animal waste contributions, as well as fertilizers, which can be from not only agriculture, but pastures and lawn watering. So there's some thoughts of contributions from that avenue as well. And so basically it shows that we need to reduce the amount of nitrates from 45%, which is the lowest in the month of June, to a highest of 72% in January. So that's the targets we're still working on, because that TMDL was set from that data set in 2007. So when I mean we, that means Idaho Soil and Water Conservation Commission, which is mentioned, URA, the Public Health, and the Conservation District will go out and work with landowners to say, what can we do to reduce the nitrate inputs from that? And then in 2007, there was another study completed by the Idaho State Department of Ag in a regional wide monitoring, and that also picked up some high nitrates in groundwater east, and it says from Lewiston to east of Blackway. And there's a report in here that they prepared as well. And then the caffeine and sweetener study that Joe had mentioned earlier, I have a copy of that. And basically, it shows that they're most likely from failed septics, some contributions because they can measure that with the caffeine. And then the septics are contributing because they can measure sweeteners. And so Joe had already summarized that, so I won't go into that a lot. And then in 2023, which is the study, the latest that you have, is they found DQ conducted some monitoring data that shows that nitrates are still present in the environment. They're estimating a septic discharge of nitrates at 27,000 pounds of nitrate per year. And that is not, I just pulled that from that because I want to talk mostly about septics because that's kind of what you guys are talking about here today. But there's also a load contribution estimated from agricultural sources as well. So I have this summary piece here. I think from the Conservation District's perspective, our approach has always been on voluntary basis. So the URA, we have not been involved in other supplying some initial information when we were asked back in 2017, which was based from the TMDL of that nitrate load reduction that's needed. Since that time, we have worked with something called the National Water Quality Initiative to ask for funding to come into the county for working in Lindsay, Tammany, and a little bit of the smaller watersheds on the north side of the Clearwater. And that was awarded, and so annually about $5.3 million is available for landowners to do improvements. It does not do septics though, it only works on the agricultural component, so the livestock and the cropland, or pastures. And landowners can come in and do things like nutrient reduction plans, waste system handling, which is mostly the livestock parts of that. And so that program started about a year ago. And so that'll be going on for another 4 years. So that would be something that could address other nitrate problems in the watershed. I don't have any data that says the trends are going down or up. The 2024 study that DQ did does say it's inconclusive whether you have a trend up or down. And that doesn't mean that the pollutant's gone. It just means that their data points that they collected weren't enough that they could say whether the trend went up or down, especially since I don't know when the year the effects were done.
I mean, it varies. There was a lot of them in like 18 and 19.
So it might, but they collected that data in 21 to 23 is when their data was collected. So I don't know when that aligns with the septic. So I don't know if their measuring points at that time would have captured any kind of data that would substantiate, are we getting a trend reduction from hooking up to these septics or not? That part, it might be another 5 years. So I did hear a question about when DEQ monitors. They're required for the TMDL for every 5 years to review the TMDL. It's on their plan to try to collect data, but they have hundreds of watersheds in the state to do that, and there's budgetary constraints. So usually, sometimes they're not hitting every 5 years. So currently they're in their data collection and review phase now, which is why you see the data being collected again by DEQ. I would expect some additional summary data that would come out in the next year or so relating to the TMDL to say we can adjust those numbers and reductions, which might be something that you could use to provide information to you about whether your URA is effective or not. I don't know if that answered questions, or I feel like I talked around about a bunch of things here, but basically the Conservation District has still considers Lindsay Creek a priority area to work in based upon the TMDL information that's provided. And when we get data that says that that will be different, which would be our basis with DEQ as the entity that collects that data, we would then adjust our prioritization of that watershed. So a lot of public concerns.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? You guys want that summary, and then there are copies of all these reports as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, you can have that, and I can email all of those to you.
That would be super. I can just patch everything.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? All right,
Which does.
what do you do? Sorry.
Just one comment. I can recall that in the 1960s, probably before DEQ became DEQ, it must have been Idaho Public Health, Idaho Department of Health, gave warnings, public warnings of that the Lindsay Creek drainage was endangered from then existing population in the Lewiston orchards. This is not a new thing.
Yeah. Obviously, there was a nitrate issue, or we wouldn't have the plan in place, to address some of the things.
Right.
So that's big takeaway, I guess.
Yeah, the nitrate priority area,
Yeah.
which is bigger than us.
Yes. So. Anyway, anybody else have any comments?
Only this, that, unless there's evidence that there's been, some improvement, the county's position is gonna be, this is not a URA project. So going forward, this will likely be cited as the reason.
Yeah, I don't know if Dad, do you want to weigh in on how?
But if that's not going,
Okay.
No, I
We'll
I don't
just-
know that the URA has to justify to the county that every goal has been met to the county's satisfaction, but we'll see what the county says.
Okay. With all that information, we'll move on to the next item, which is board member comments. Anybody have any comments? Sir?
No, this time.
Okay, we'll move on to staff member comments.
So just a reminder that our regular meeting in November, which would have been November 11th, has been canceled because of the Veterans Holiday. The board chose to reschedule for November 13th, which is a Thursday. Make sure you have it marked in your calendar, Thursday, November 13th, 12 o'clock, same location. So that'll be our meeting date for November, so you will get two notices from me, one for that cancellation and then one for it'll be called a special meeting on the 13th. And then on that calendar, that agenda, we have, we'll be reviewing the downtown plan again. And hopefully we will have information following the bond election. Unless there are any other items that the board would like to see put on the agenda.
I don't think so.
Okay, that's all I have then.
All right. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
So,
Second.
okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Motion.
Thanks, Sheila.
Thank you. Butch, good to see you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.